Good afternoon, David. Here we are, episode 22, No Art, No Life.
No art, no life, Jack. As you know, I believe it, you believe it. And I want many, many more people than we have watching to believe it because it is the major belief to have at all times. Not religions, not politics. It is always art. And whatever art you love, to devote some part of your life to it.
David, how would you distinguish a faith in art from a faith in religion?
A faith in art is a faith in aesthetic ecstasy. You can have ecstasy from seeing magnificent formal paintings where the subject is there, you know what the subject is, like in an El Greco, Bruegel, but the aesthetics of composition, just like Beethoven, he doesn't write melodies, Chopin melodies, but the togetherness of the whole is so vast that you have ecstasy from the form. Religion has nothing to do with anything, and anything. It has to do with, a few books in the history of the world that define nothing at all. Would you say that we have evidence that we were born in 6 days or something?
No, I'm wondering, however, if without it, do we have, for those who can't experience ecstasy from form, any sort of governor on conduct without it?
It's been very overrated, or we wouldn't be having 5,000 wars every 10 years. I don't know about conduct. I don't have much faith in the way people are conducting themselves any longer. Did they do that in former times better? In the 18th century, the age of reason, they dressed better. They certainly ate better, but there were, of course, many, many more poor, many more peasants. But, Jack, we have many more peasants today than ever because we have 10 billion people, and they're not doing well. They're not doing well. Only doing well are the people that are scoundrels, and I mean scoundrels. Do you agree? Do you not agree? Please write us, subscribe to us, tell us that you're for me, and that you understand, and that you're not a scoundrel. For to be a scoundrel is the worst thing. A hooligan, as Vladimir Horowitz calls them, a hooligan.
Yes. Can a man who can submit to the ecstasy of aesthetics also be a hooligan?
Be a hooligan?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
So it doesn't, in essence, necessarily elevate our humanity, save our singular humanity, meaning our singular experience of consciousness. It doesn't necessarily affect our interpersonal consciousness, the experience of the aesthetic, ecstatic.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And yet, I would like to argue that it seems to do so. I don't know that the conversations that we have, as we had this afternoon, could take place without what I have always continued to suspect with greater and greater fervency to be your aesthetic awareness of the power of that ecstasy that comes solely from not even the body of work that is left behind, but the state of mind that one has to live in order to always present the new result of that state of mind. I think it's in the essay on art in Emerson's Essays first series, where he says art is the process of making art as opposed to the result. And
yes, I think that's true. But that also gives excuse for amateurism and for lots of junk and what they call self-expression on Instagram, or all of this stuff on they're not good. They are all very attractive in many ways of self-expression, abstract, not objective. They're some of them really work, and I often will say I like that, but I don't really think that there's much coming out of mere self-expression, because the real creativity of a master is always formed with the form, with what is the structure. And I don't think that many of the painters of our time, except the major ones, are interested in structure at all within their abstract world. When I watch Instagram, I say, oh, they are very pretty, that's very nice little, yes, of course, if they had only understood that doesn't really go there, that piece of purple.
Going where?
It's on the canvas a certain place, it's not the right place. Well, they don't have to. If you have self-expression, you don't have to have it in the right place. And they're not interested, the painters, in you having any abstract aesthetic ecstasy. And yet, as Somerset Maugham said, beauty and aesthetic ecstasy are everything. The word beauty is now not used even by musicians, especially from the musicians that were writing electronic music. Beauty? Oh, beauty, we've passed that. Well, if we have, we're in real trouble.
Yes.
Perhaps more trouble than having a ballroom at the
at the
White House.
Now, when you talk about expression or self-expression, can egotists support a lifetime prolific body of work?
Who?
Can an egotist support a lifetime of prolific work merely on self-expression, or would they inevitably have to evolve out of that? Wouldn't it become
They would be out of it. You would never know when their last painting comes. It's or sculpture. That's a very hard art. My God, there's not many sculptors in New York anymore, and there's no place for them to live.
Because
no
they're
lofts, no anything for the arts in this great city of art. It's not a great city of art at all. It has almost no art here being practiced.
So for a layman like myself,
I have no studio. I could never afford one. Once nobody could not have a studio.
But you don't seem to require one, do you?
No, I don't. I have to do what I have to do wherever I have to do it. If it had to be, outside on the street, that I would, if that was the mood taking me, and I would do it. But basically speaking, the solitude which had come from so many wonderful lofts, where so many people had trusted to go good night. They could have been stolen. They weren't. They didn't even lock doors sometimes. The last painter I knew that had a studio was the great painter, wonderful man, writer, Paul Hollister, and he was the foremost expert on glass in the United States. His book on glass is still noted. He died maybe 10 years ago. He loved Hoffman, the pianist, with a passion. He loved pianists. I find that the people that talk about self-expression talk only about their egos and, oh, this is something to be presented to the public. Oh, isn't that nice? Oh, everyone on Instagram will see it or something. Who knows? But one thing that is certain is that the real poly artist has to exist in a society like this, because there's no way you can find places that will love your work. So you're frustrated and you find out gratefully that you also like to write. Or in your case, my case, that you also like to play piano. and that you're a well-educated musician. All of these things make up a great life, and you do not have ego within them because you're not just self-expressing yourself. Those egos, with bringing all of this work out, is a sin to me because there's too much product, just like too many stupid medicines in Duane Reade's, ointments of every possible type,
Yes.
5,000 toothpastes. I don't want to see any one of them, and I don't want to choose them. Why do I take that time? Oh my goodness, is it a whiter one, or I mean, it's great. Capitalism gone mad in Duane Reade's.
Now, may I ask, if you had your druthers, would you have a different or a larger space for your drawing and painting work? I suspect, because I don't detect in you the meekness of those who use it for self-expression. Since we were talking earlier that the finer work really is an expression of mentality. I wonder if I would find your work to be demonstrably different if you had also a delegated studio space. I don't know that, and I mean this in the best possible way, that I don't know that I would.
I don't know. I don't know. I will never have it. I'm too poor to have a studio.
What would be different if you had a studio?
I don't know. I mean, I would be able to paint on a bigger scale. I really want to. I have two huge canvases which I can't use now because I don't know even where to put them. I mean, how can I paint on them?
Yes.
I would do that. There's a Picasso, a whole wall where he's being photographed, doesn't have any problem with it, as Jackson Pollock finally did when he was. They showed Pollock doing his drip stuff. Which then became millions of painters started dripping too. Well, the man knew how to drip, that's for sure, because there are really several masterpieces of abstract painting with the drip. And then he got very uptight, I hear. I think it was even discussed in the movie they made about his life with Harris, where he was embarrassed to think that people would think that that's all he did to create these large drip canvases with the paint. And they didn't understand that he came from a long line, first of a draftsman who was not necessarily very good. And then he moved forward. He found not his self-expression, but an aesthetic form of the drip paintings, of which shows that this painter, Jackson Pollock, is one of the few, not of the greatness of Picasso or Branco, oh my God, nothing like that, but of one of the few great American masters who opened up a new light, and he certainly didn't call it self-expression. He was a painter working to make every canvas count, however size they were. Each size is a different idea, and you can't make any mistakes there. Now, the usual person watching a painting doesn't even think about how big it was or little. And of course, we're now so used to publications of paintings in different sizes that, we don't even really look at anything at its actuality, its reality in the world, on a wall or anywhere in a home. How big is it? How small is it? This is very important.
Does that only emerge from marketing, the idea that modern books that represent paintings and drawings give the dimensions? It just occurred to me now, and I don't know enough, my reading's not vast enough. I can't imagine a pre-20th century person necessarily speaking in those terms. That wouldn't be asked immediately, would it?
Asked what?
Well, the dimensions of a canvas. I suppose if it was a commission that those things would have to be offered, meaning the size. But it seems like something that, because what you remarked on sounds very interesting to me. When we see something of value in a book where it's represented, we don't necessarily need to know the size of the actuality.
No, they're just telling you what it is.
Yeah,
I don't think that the painters actually measured too many things.
that's what I meant.
Of course not.
Mhm.
And it's just the trappings of the art business
Mm.
that, said, okay, this is large, this is 200 cm or whatever, 40 inches by 30 or whatever, and how could that matter if it's in a book or it's only just a small little thing?
Well, you talk about the art business. Now, here's a whole topic I don't think
it's corrupt as
that
any
we've
business.
ever ventured into.
It's corrupt as any
Now,
business.
every respective art has its own respective snob scene. And I must say, I've been a student of piano and I've been a student of literature, prose principally.
A tremendous one, Jack, yes.
Well, thank you. And I have found in the different arts, the one sphere, meaning the plastic arts, painting, sculpture, drawing, the only person with whom I've been comfortable speaking about it is you. Because I feel a tremendous alienating, what would be the word I'm looking for? I guess a snob culture that I imagine people who don't study classical music or art music may feel from that world or may feel from the world of literature. Is it only because I feel comfortable in those that I can detect the times when snobbery is merely being invoked? Or does that sphere have a special kind of charlatan in it, meaning the plastic arts? When one goes to galleries, when one goes to museums, there's a different way of rendering it into a mere commodity, again, of self-expression from the witness that I find alienating. Does that register? Does that make sense? When we discuss it, I never sense a trace of that in you. Again, it always comes back to the representation of a kind of means of expression of consciousness or mentality, as we were speaking about earlier. Whereas I find it the most alienating world to be with other people who are witnesses, whereas I can tolerate witnesses in an art music scene who I think are affecting snobbery,
Mm-hmm.
but is it only because I know the distinctions better there?
Because I believe that you know the distinctions better there.
Okay.
And their remarks and their snobbery are different from the art
Mm.
people who usually don't show up to any concerts either, as the musician has almost no care at all for the visual art. We've specialized ourselves to such a degree that and been brainwashed with that specialty that you think that you must stay with one thing.
Mm-hmm.
The idea of staying with one thing is absolutely ludicrous. It means that you're actually so egotistical to think that I'm staying with painting and because I really know how much talent I have. I can't go and do broadcast art, so to speak, or performance art, whatever those are.
Mm-hmm.
Someone said of my radio shows they're broadcast art. I said, oh, that's a great thing. No, of course they're not art. Art is a specialized, single-minded thing that you do, and you can't keep doing it for 100 years without wanting to do something else.
Mm-hmm.
My goodness, how many artists that are not known in their other fields have indeed drawn and painted and if they were musicians or writers. Until the 20th century, it was a tremendous, in fact, you weren't cultured or you weren't educated if you didn't know how to draw. Chopin could draw, Liszt could draw, George Sand painted marvelous watercolors. Victor Hugo's works are unbelievable. They needed another outlet. The last one we know of was Gershwin,
Yes.
who painted another painter, composer, a marvelous portrait of him, Schoenberg. And now, is it good compared to Mendelssohn? Was a great draftsman, wonderful, huge amounts of paintings throughout his life. 38 years he must have, very prolific man, he must have
Mhm.
wanted very much to also get out other things. He had to conduct, he had to
Mhm.
teach, he had to found conserve. One thing is never enough for a creative person, but we have been told you can't dare move anywhere. You have to play the piano your whole life, sit there
Mhm.
and, you know, well, maybe one or two people could do that, like Rachmaninoff.
Mhm.
Horowitz was so bored with practicing at
Mhm.
83 or 5 or 7. I
Mhm.
mean, it was, you need scales, maestro? Oh, I need them, but I can't play them because it's too boring, you know.
It's funny, the pre-20th century artist who had that kind of multi-sphere or multi-theatered address of their powers oftentimes is more prolific in different spheres than the specialist ever gets to be in the present.
Mhm.
So why do we look askance on the generalist so much in the 20th and the
I
21st
don't know
century?
why. I mean, really, they
Mhm.
call it the jack of all trades, master of none. They
Yes, that's
um,
it. Do you think that phrase existed?
No, in the
Before-
20th century?
before the 20th century?
No,
So you
it
really
could
think-
not have been.
So that's a
Everyone was
diet-
expected to draw.
Right, so that's a diatribe really that was invented more or less in the 20th century as a
absolutely.
specialist rose in power?
Yeah, it even sounds like a machine age cliche.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why my mind is going here, but I always go back to Evenings with Horowitz and its novel-like quality. Novel in the
Mhm.
sense as a work of prose, a novel. And you remark that when you first went into his townhouse that you expected or were hoping to see the Picasso that is in a lot of photographs, and it was not there. So what do you make of that moment in its absence? Were you simply registering something that had to do with commerce for Horowitz, or a moment of disappointment in the man not holding on to something that might then suggest to you a generalist?
Yes, because Horowitz had a distinct feeling for painting. He would be seen in lots of Madison Avenue
Mm.
galleries, and he donated to the Museum of Modern Art a small Matisse.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't enough interest for him to bring it up all the time. You see,
Mm-hmm.
when we talk, we bring up all the arts, from Emerson to El Greco
Mm-hmm.
to Horowitz
Mm-hmm.
to Heifetz, performers, conductors, Beethoven. They're all the same. They're all coming from a tremendous drive for not egotism ever, that will destroy every work,
Mm-hmm.
but for that,
Are there works that you can think of where the ego came close to surrendering
all
itself in the process?
all people that imitate their works, they say, the gallery owner will say, now, you know, this is a new way you're doing things, and it is a terrible thing that he's doing. He's now going in another direction. And you can't do that because the public only knows what they know about you,
Mhm.
and they know your style, so they're not going to buy your new work.
Well, then here's an argument. You have a vast, vast body of work. And if I may venture, perhaps I get more of a privileged view into how enormous it is than a lot of people.
And it's just this tiny bit, you know.
Right, and what I mean is you've suggested to me as we continue to work how much more I have yet to see. Because you have not come under the pressure of an expectation of a public that has identified you as one particular kind of artist. Do you think that in a way, in the long run, that saved you from ever having to meet an imprisoning expectation? Because I can never identify one particular frame of reference or consciousness
Yes,
from you.
of
That's
course,
it.
of course.
Again, I always think of the Whitman phrase, you embody multitudes.
The larger the consciousness, the larger the ability to do many different kinds of paintings and subjects. I don't like to go to any strange media that I don't know, or I care for one thing: the pencil, the pen,
Mm-hmm.
the pastel, the oil. the canvas, the brushes, all very old-fashioned.
Mm.
No installations.
Mm-hmm.
No, I just can't believe that they call them these such things, and they sell for millions.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, no one knows that I'm a painter, and for years I wanted to keep it that way, in a sense. I didn't want anything to taint me, because these people in the art world have nothing in common with an artist.
Can you say more about that? Because I think that's what I was trying to say before. That I suspect that there's something about the curatorial, something about the librarian, something about the custodial aspect of certain types that is so alienating that I hold it to a degree responsible for my late term exposure until our conversations to the plastic arts.
Yes, I think that the arts and their big practitioners have to deal with people that don't understand the artist's work.
Mm-hmm.
Many of them will say that I'm so isolated that I just wish I had someone to talk to.
Mm.
If they have a gallery owner, and the history of gallery owners has always been contentious and difficult, but less so at least when you had Van Gogh's brother trying to sell, Theodore Van Gogh trying to sell his brother's paintings, but he was not successful.
Mm-hmm.
He sold other things, stuff that was in the common view,
Mm-hmm.
the figurative stuff. Monet was often successful because his high impressionism was of rocks and water lilies, and everyone likes that.
Mm-hmm.
But no one necessarily likes to see things that are ugly.
Mm-hmm.
Why do they not want to see things that are ugly? Almost all things in the world are ugly. All shirts, all pants, all
Mhm.
ears, all, and you
Mhm.
name the thing.
Mhm.
Teeth,
Mm-hmm.
eyes,
Mm.
jeans.
Mhm.
What are they, pretty? Have we made a sword? A sword is an instrument for killing.
Mm.
Have we ever made a sword, as we once did, that was so beautiful that you wouldn't want to tarnish it?
Mm-hmm.
Beauty has left in the world of ugliness. The ugliness is outside. Every automobile is ugly.
Mm.
There's no flair to anything in the world. Every building's ugly.
Mm.
Look at the building across. Oh, look at those buildings. Look at those.
Mm-hmm.
So what? We have on West End Avenue some trees.
Mm-hmm.
That's about it.
Mm.
We have some ridiculous park that, you know, everyone walks in with their dogs, and it's,
Mm-hmm.
and you're supposed to be part of nature. But basically speaking, every truck where you buy a hot dog is ugly.
Mm.
And they used to be, if you look at the movies, not ugly. They were pieces of wood,
Mhm.
and you went over, and you know, it looked plausible. Ugly is something to keep in mind because we live in a society so ugly. Miro said, "Why are my recent paintings called ugly? Maybe because we live in an ugly society." And then one day he burned his last show.
Mm.
Every one of them worth hundreds of thousands. And the gallery owner went out of his mind, and he said, "Why did you burn these? Why did you?"
Mhm.
Well, this is a great man. He's not interested in galleries, or he's not interested if he ever sold one, probably.
Mm-hmm.
He needed to support his wife. So here he is. He says, The paintings I did were of great plastic beauty. But the fire was even more beautiful.
Because it allowed him not to remain committed to a body of work, and the only thing that would remain would be the creation of a new body of work?
No, he was rebelling. His words about that was, paintings are not dollars.
Mm. So he was escaping from the commitment of having to be known for a past utterance. And do you think you've been spared that? And that's how I account for the, again.
I've been spared that I have no money given me for my vast body of works.
And yet you told me earlier today that you almost never repudiate any part of the body of your work.
No.
I don't think I could imagine you giving over to the fire a whole large part of the
Oh, I
body.
would be terrified, as all artists are, of
And yet that gesture of his seemed to command your respect.
very much, because I hate the concept of buying
Hmm.
dollars. Just like Chopin said, don't hand me your money. No amount of money could pay for a lesson with Chopin.
Mm.
Put it on the mantelpiece.
Mm.
And it happened to be the most money anyone in Paris paid for a piano lesson.
Mm.
He was, in his way, a good businessman, but he's not going to touch it. It's filthy.
So by imposing a third party, in the case, what was the mantle? You said you're putting the money where, in a little container?
Where?
You said that Chopin.
Oh, just on the mantelpiece.
On the
probably,
mantelpiece.
Yeah, probably on some beautiful objects. I don't know.
And yet he knew he had to take it, but by putting that little hurdle in the process, did he absolve himself from its dirt?
In his mind, he did.
Okay.
I think so.
Okay.
He could have made more money in the emerging recital world,
Mm.
but he was not interested. He was too weak. He was coughing. He was not interested in traveling to go play the piano for a crowd of people that never heard this new piece anyway.
Mm.
What did he want to do that for? He wanted the publication of his music. He wanted the students who were rich enough to pay his, because he had a big, I need to be in bon ton, good taste.
Mm.
I need to have the best gloves, the best wallpaper, the best coach, and horses.
Do you think in his case that was in complement to some interior aspect of the man, or was that flair of the personal man?
That was the inside refinement of the great artist, that who's the most refined of all great artists for the piano. No one could ever come near him in refinement.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
In many arts, I mean, very few painters have refinement in their art. Very few writers do. If they do, some critic will say he has too much style.
Mm-hmm. So would we imagine that Liszt, in rejecting worldly things, in taking to his Spartan quarters in Rome, is making another kind of gesture about the interior man than Chopin? That
The interior man of Liszt is 100 times the size of Chopin, who's just a small mind.
See, that's an amazing contradiction. Yet I totally accept what you mean by the contradiction. That Chopin's an enormous consciousness, and yet it has the same diameter of Liszt's to a degree, but it seems as if there are infinitely more Jupiters inside the diameter of Liszt's sphere.
Liszt is a huge galaxy,
Yes.
and Chopin is just a little planet where everything's quite magnificently perfect,
Yes.
and he's very satisfied with it. And give me the 20 francs for the lesson, I deserve it,
Mhm.
and I want to go out and buy a beautiful coat.
Mm-hmm.
Liszt smoked like mad, the cheapest Havana cigars, the
Mhm.
worst cognac.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes he lived in a monk's inn, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
and then at a big place in Weimar. He's lived in palaces. He's hobnobbed with the gypsy and and the highest political people of his nation, and he doesn't care.
Mm.
He's a great Democrat. He doesn't hate the Jews like many Hungarians did.
Mm-hmm.
He wrote a book, The Gypsy in Music, and his horrible companion, Princess Wittgenstein, revised it without him knowing it and put in anti-Semitic things that hurt him desperately.
Mm-hmm.
Just incredible. He must have had an attitude to throw it all out, because I really am the big man, and I know it.
Was her insertion of those passages as much about hurting Liszt as it was to purvey her anti-Semitism?
Purvey hers.
Okay.
And she no doubt got away with so much from him.
Mm-hmm.
He just threw it off his shoulder, whatever it be, how she would raise the daughter, how he would this. He had many opinions that were very, very good, but he didn't push them.
Okay.
The Wittgenstein probably rationalized those things as, well, he likes me to write these things. Well, of course, every great man wants his woman, who's not as great, to partake in his greatness. So if she's supposed to be a writer, and she wrote the worthless 24 volumes on the Catholic Church,
Mm-hmm.
24 huge volumes on the inner workings of the outer da-da. Wouldn't Liszt want to give her a little bit of literary work as he did to the Countess d'Agoult? He brought her into the world of writing. She had never thought of writing.
Do you think this is because of something we've talked about also in private and to a degree here, that a man like a Liszt or any man with artistic temperament wants to feel that he admires a woman more than for her beauty, so he may even have to lie to himself about her potential?
He did lie publicly about the Wittgenstein princess. He kept saying that everyone says that she's ugly, but he doesn't say she's ugly.
Mm.
He says she has an inner beauty that is everything.
And yet we don't really feel that was true.
No.
So he was lying to himself.
Absolutely lying to himself.
Why did he lie to himself
because he
about
felt
her?
that he brought her back to religion, and that was
Okay.
something to be grateful his whole life.
Mm. Well, in my own small way, I've told you I've noticed this phenomenon. One would think that if one has a small body of work as a writer, that would be something one would immediately find someone with whom is having an incipient romance with, that they would consume that. And yet I always find the reverse to be true, that if I hear someone reference that they've had a dalliance in some kind of literary interest, and they have one poem, it'll turn out that I have consumed that poem of that person and desperately trying to encourage them to continue, and realizing, of course, they're completely indifferent to that. And yet, what books I may have, of course, the spines remain pristine and uncracked. That phenomenon fascinates me, and it gives me some peace to know that perhaps someone as great as Liszt could fall for that same problem, to try to always elevate a romantic prospect by giving them a greater sensibility within than they have. Because do we think that Princess Wittgenstein adequately gave testament to Liszt's greatness as a composer and as a thinker? Not to the degree to which he helped her. That's my question. Why does that reversal always happen? Why does the more interesting party always seem to end up trying to assist the minor character in their personal, usually romantic relationships? Do you agree, first of all, that that's a phenomenon?
It's a phenomenon.
And I know that I go through it over and over again.
Every creator goes over and over again with the people around him.
Mm-hmm.
They cannot get the acknowledgement, appreciation from their brothers, their sisters, their mothers, their fathers. It's always surface.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes, well, I'm proud of my son, he just published another book.
Mm-hmm.
Never read it,
Mm-hmm.
and,
Mm-hmm.
you know, we have to understand that the father may have had a little talent, and he may have given a genetic foundation for his own son, but he doesn't do anything with his own genetic talent.
Mm-hmm.
When we get out in the world, I think it was Alfred Brendel who said it was 60 years after the death of Liszt that the aura of envy continued on him,
Mm-hmm.
because nobody could be that good.
I just thought of something, David. You, of course, have a tremendous new article in the New Criterion about the phenomenon that great men almost never sire a lineage of children, literally their own children, that in any way reflect their talent. What has just occurred to me is the reverse, a study of the fathers of great men, and to what degree perhaps they don't quite take pride in that. It's a reverse kind of phenomenon.
Yeah, it's a reverse phenomenon, indeed, a mentally dangerous one for the father.
Yes.
And the father is not gonna, he's gonna be at odds with the artist's son, especially if you know historically. I mean, there's just not an example of the father, who may well have had a little genetic talent himself, ever saying to his son, be it Handel or Scarlatti or anyone, be a musician, be an artist. Yes, I want you to be that. No, they will always say, you must be a lawyer, you must be a doctor, you must be, you know. They don't want them to go into anything self-fulfilling.
Do we exclude, say, Liszt's father or Mozart's father from that?
No. Liszt's father is out to create the genius he perceived in him, because he had already been for 2 years a Franciscan what do you call it, member of the Abbey Franciscan sect, and he was a pianist who had played the Ries C sharp minor concerto, and was Liszt's first and really quite a teacher, obviously, before he came to Czerny.
So this is a different case. So
Well, a very different case.
Okay.
He was on tour with the young boy Liszt in every concert.
Okay. But do we
And
imagine...
Mozart, but that's very rare.
Mm-hmm.
That's very rare. My father would certainly not watch me paint a picture. He wouldn't even know what I'm doing, or you know, or how boring that is. Why do you want to do that, son? Why would you want to do that, son? That's not going to earn you anything. He was right about that.
Well,
Doesn't matter. That's not the point. The point is certainly I didn't earn anything, but I also didn't try to earn anything.
but that's
But
why
now I want to.
Well, see, that's because perhaps I think you have a body of work now that has escaped, again, the obligation of having to answer to one style. It's so vast
Right.
that I think you're now safe, and you can now emerge and present the fact that no one could demand one thing of you because you've given all. So how could anybody, should the event, as it should happen now that acknowledgement comes, in any way obligate you to narrow what your future work will be? I wouldn't put it past you that the state you are in has been consciously or subconsciously chosen. That, I mean, you were certainly very facile at speaking. You've been in a very public medium. I think that perhaps you protected that latitude that you had as a painter. And
I really did protect it. I don't think I wanted anyone, not to criticize it, but I don't even think I wanted for so many years anyone to see it, not because I was a snob and said they don't appreciate it, because I never thought of myself as great. But now, after a lot of pieces, I say I am great. Is this hard to say? Is this bad? You can disagree. You see, that's what's important, that you can disagree. But it doesn't matter even if you disagree, because the ultimate authority on me is me.
Also, I think that authority is reinforced by immense prolificness. Only a true madman would spend a life creating objects simply to deceive himself. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I do. It's very hard to do that.
It would be impossible.
It would be impossible because
Mhm.
because the impetus to do it would not be there.
Exactly. That's what I'm
You
saying.
just don't get up at 2 in the morning and go to a white board with a black,
Yes.
and finish, an abstract drawing in a certain amount of time, and then look at it and say, nothing wrong with that. Go to
Right.
bed again.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that, oh, and I do, you brought up the New Criterion. I
Mhm.
think that I wanna, plug that fantastic magazine. My newest article is called, what is it? Jeans?
Yes, it's funny.
Gifted Genes?
The exact title escapes me. It's funny though. I know the article
Yeah,
well.
it's about painters, artists, and
Mhm.
poets, and what do you call it, musicians. And to find out, as I had thought, oh, everyone must be like the Bach family,
Mhm.
there's so many musicians in it. But don't count on immortality from your parents, because you're not going to get it.
Mm.
You're not going to get it. They did not have children that had much talent, if any at all. If they did have it, it was so minor, like, although it's not in the article, but Wagner's son Siegfried
Mhm.
wrote these imitation Wagner operas and tried to conduct them, and Wagner just didn't give him much encouragement,
Mhm.
and why would he? You see.
Mhm.
But yes, it's such a well-edited magazine with Benjamin Riley, who's my editor, and the great Roger Kimball, who founded it and who's so much a part of it and looked up by all of the people around him. Roger Kimball is the head, the editor-in-chief, and we have Panero, and we have a wonderful young man there by the name of Isaac Sly.
Mm.
I think you know that name.
I do.
Yes.
Mhm.
So if you want to read that, I guess it's going to be online. But I don't know anything about online. But I would like to see you buy the New Criterion, certainly in the November issue, where my article is, which begins with, believe it or not, a racehorse secretariat.
Mhm. Mhm.
Well, now I want to get to you, Jack. Well, you read to me a really beautiful, almost a poem. The article being about many things, but about tattoos and
Mhm.
other things, and about you being stunned by a certain woman at the subway that didn't
Mhm.
have tattoos.
Mhm.
And I said to you, you have a body of work now. I mean, at all times, everything is new, everything is distinguished, everything is complex. You don't go against your style. You don't, what are you going to do? Everywhere, everyone gets these shattering no's or no answers at all, such as I want an agent to help me sell the 4 books I need to sell right now. 4 books are done, more or less.
Mhm.
No agent even calls me back. Are they real today? Are they actually wanting to sell things? I don't know.
Mhm.
You've had some devastating, no.
Well, maybe not so devastating anymore, because that's all I get is no. So in a way, I would only be surprised by a yes. I work now, as I told you, with the idea that whatever the next thing I do may save the old. And that's what keeps me going. because I've been at it so long, I don't know what else to do. And I don't say that as a defeatist thing or as a man who feels that he doesn't have options, and I would certainly, in some post-apocalyptic world where there was no paper or pen, still try to live a cheerful existence. But I do feel absolutely driven to do it, notwithstanding the fact that I cannot get a reply. Even recently, as I've started to address myself to things that I think are under everyone's eye, including the phenomenon of tattoos, which is baffling. And I try to, in the end, address, though I didn't address the one side as much as I did the other, but to look at both sides, even though I'm among the untattooed.
And you will remain among the
Yes.
untattooed.
That's what I argue, yes.
Anyway, yes, so you see, you read the letters of all of these people, doesn't matter if it's the author Catherine Mansfield or Virginia Woolf. She had to start her own publishing firm. She would have never gotten published without her own firm, with her husband Leonard. And you read the letters, and everything in their lives are rejections too.
That's what I remind myself. I can't have these heroes and imagine how noble and almost enviable those states of solitude are for them, and then not imagine that in my own small way that I shouldn't be able to endure it if I admire it as part of the story of the people that I make into heroes.
You're still a young man, Jack, and do you feel, or have you thought of the fact that maybe you will change your mind and enter defeatism as you get older? As many artists have, you know.
I suppose. I think the one thing that protects me is I've never known success. So I'm so accustomed to this state that I don't know that I would know to call it defeat, or I don't have that to turn to because I've never known elation from it. I just...
Or money.
Or money, yes.
We don't talk about that, but that's what most people talk about.
Yes, and I mean, honestly, I live in a way that every sitcom mocks today. On the second floor of the house I was born in. Now, that was more common in another time in history. I know that oftentimes when people ask me, you know, how am I living right now, I'll say, well, like Thoreau in the 1850s. And most people don't know enough about Thoreau to know what I mean by that, because they just have an association of a man somewhere in the woods in a cabin for a limited amount of time. But Thoreau in the 1850s is him moving out of the cabin and back into his family home on the main street in Concord and living in the attic. And that's where Walden was composed, and in the midst of other people living delegated lives in terms of mother, father, sisters, brothers. And so I've been able to turn that kind of existence in my favor so that I can continue to do this. And also because I only get no's. As I say, I don't have even what I imagine would be the dopamine hit if I want to reduce it to some kind of chemical notion of elevation that later on, in contrast, could then lead me to the defeatist state because I can't get that anymore from it. Maybe only dating is the one thing that gives me dopamine hits, and then that allows me, when I dive into the defeatist, to get grist for my journal. But in that case, I know I'm using it for that. So there's a part of me that is a self watching the self.
Yeah. Let me say that I've known many people, and that I don't think there are as many intelligent people as Jack in the world. It's a small amount. He thinks about everything, not over analysis. On the contrary, he's totally apt on all things with an open mind. He's not going to hurt you. That's the wonderful thing when you know you.
Well, thank
You're
you.
not going to. This is to have to be hurt by someone is so terrible. And there's so many crushing times a day, especially if you're in the public in any way, that you can just be amazed at what people say to you. And when they get that chance, they use it, and then you are depressed. There's no doubt about it, because not because of yourself or what was said, but because that they were allowed in their own minds to have so little sensitivity
Yes.
that they had to say this to you and hurt you,
Well, that's why your state.
or try to get something from you.
Yes. Well, that's why my admiration for you is so vast, and what you've endured is so much more vast than I can ever approximate. Again, my anonymity is a kind of boon because I'm not subject to those kind of remarks, mainly because I get no reaction. But what amazes me is, again, the breadth of field that you have for your awareness going through all of these different mediums. But
Yeah.
and that you have to endure in such a way. The man who, well, you are the man who has raised his head above the parapet. In a sense, not that I wouldn't, but there's no ladder for me. So that I don't deserve much credit because I'm behind the castle wall all the time. But
Well, let's just hope that you receive much credit. You said, "Oh yes, well, you know, there's no readers," but you did read today a finished work that you began in one of our talks. I gave you the germ, or you took
You
it
did.
from for this article that you read to me today, and I'm only hoping that it can be read by lots of people because it says so much.
thank you, David.
You see, we're really basically hungry for something, but they know nothing to be hungry about.
Mm.
You have to have something that you want to be hungry about.
Mhm.
And that's why we're doing this show, not because of money.
And I also owe that to you on so many levels, this last particular work, because we don't have, as human beings, and particularly men in terms of friendship, where one can start at the base of an observation that's really just part of living. I think, and for the most part, I came to you and said, wow, last week I saw a young woman that absolutely flabbergasted me. And then our conversation from a simple notion of the admiration of female form led to something elevated, because I felt this liberty to speak of something that was very fundamental in the aspect of living. You were talking about the ugliness of the world from, who was the person that you cited that said that we live in a world of ugliness and hence we see renderings of ugliness?
I don't remember what it was, but
All right, so, and again, in seeing this example of such beauty in the midst of so much,
oh, it's just incredible, isn't
because
it?
where I saw her was, of course, in a place where nature is not allowed to reign at all, which is the subway. We don't see a shred of a blade of grass or any sign of nature as it's created. And because of the nature of your degree of consciousness, the way we talked about that, something that I had never considered as a thing that could then broaden into an abstraction, meaning something that I would address that is ultimately in no way a narrative report of merely seeing a girl that caught my fancy in the subway, would not have come about. And that's what I think
And
people...
an article comes about from that germ, that one little...
Yes.
It's wonderful.
And that's why I think I'm uniquely privileged to come here each week, David, because that's the kind of thing that I know I cannot find anywhere else. And the rarity of what you give in these conversations and then are so generous to turn to this camera and say the same is one in a
Jack,
sense.
you know, don't overrate me because whatever you're saying about me, I feel the same way. And you know, right now what we are doing is what we do very well, I think, do a collaboration of just ideas.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I
So-
would like thousands to listen. But
Yeah.
what can I do?
Well, I submit that you couldn't do more.
We can't do more.
Well, I don't mean that in a defeatist way. No one could be
No, I know,
using
I
their
know.
power better than you. And if I may say one small little remark in response to one thing, I must say these cyclic conversations that we have, you've been living in this neighborhood a long time, and maybe there are buildings from your sensitive eye that don't approximate what the kingdom should look like. But I must say, I'm always charmed by this neighborhood and it's ennobled even more so when I leave. There is quite something about the Upper West Side that's distinct, even after 100 yards walk this direction from Broadway, as if one is in something that does have a degree of neighborhood, as if separate from
Yes,
Metropolis.
yes,
And you
yes.
must have found it by design a
Oh, yes,
little
yes.
bit. Hmm.
I worked at it.
Okay, that I believe. Hmm.
Well, we've talked about lots of things. I think we spent an hour.
Hmm.
We just, as usual, just began without even once talking about what we would talk about.
Yes.
And it's roamed around beautifully, always different each time. Is there anything more that you would like to say today?
Not today, I think. I, again, appreciate the notion that we begin with formlessness, and if I may dare to lapse into a bit of self-praise for us, it seems to have a form at the end.
And I noticed we also did homage to our love for Liszt again.
Yes, that seemed to be an unavoidable third party who sits here.
Isn't that wonderful? I really think that's wonderful. Talking about Liszt, one more little item when we were talking about, doing your art, not for your own, glory. He had evolved now in his late years, 1879 to 1886, into an art. As he said, I'll throw my lance into the future. Nobody, but nobody almost, except a few of his students, ever thought those pieces were anything but absolute garbage. And now we know that they are the germinative force of modern music itself. So Franz Liszt again ends today's No Art, No Life. Join us next time. And Jack, so good to be with you.
The honor's mine, David. Thank you. Okay.
David Duval, say goodbye.